We are group number 46, consisting of Ethan Brown, Marshall Nielsen, Seth Kohler, and Madison Hoyt, and we are Room Key, a keyless entry system.
My first day at BYU, I didn't get back until 1:30 in the morning. It was only then that I realized I'd forgotten my key. See, in Hillerman Halls, you need your ID card to swipe into the building, but if you forget it, someone could just open it for you. But if you forget the key to your room, inside your room, you're pretty much screwed. I eventually found my way back into my room without waking up the roommate that I
just met through a stroke of mechanical genius, but I will never forget the horror of thinking that I might have to sleep on the floor in the hall. Turns out this isn't a unique experience. I've gotten locked out 4 times since then, and it isn't too uncommon of an experience in Helaman Halls to see some poor soul in a towel suffering from the exact same predicament. I asked my RA how often he had to let people back into their room, and he said it was about 3 times a day. Over time, many people became sick and tired of getting locked out, so they put tape over the latch to stop it from locking, creating a bit of a safety hazard. So I decided to use some of my hobbyist experience to come up with a solution. How could you open the door without a key? I came up with a bunch of possible solutions, including vibration detectors that would listen for a certain knock pattern, and a light sensor on the other side of the peephole that could read a pattern of light from your phone. But after I read about the minimum feature set in the Nail It Scale It book, I realized that all I really needed to do to solve the pain that I was experiencing was to install a simple keypad. And the unlocking mechanism didn't need to be complicated either. My first thought was to turn the doorknob itself from the inside, but eventually I realized that all that really needed to be done was to push the bolt out, which could be done by a simple servo mounted inside the hole where the bolt is supposed to go.
Once we had finished ideation and actually had a product in mind, we went out and talked to members of our target demographic. We asked a few specific questions in order to gain a better understanding about our pain and our product. Some of our staple questions were, have you ever gotten locked out of your room? If so, how frequently do you get locked out? How frequently does your roommate get locked out? How much would you pay to never have to remember your key again? Would a device that unlocks your door with a keypad solve your pain? What features would be most important for such a device? These are just a few of our key validation questions. However, as our interviews went on, we asked more situational specific questions in order to better understand our customers' pain or lack thereof. Throughout all of our validation, we contacted a total of 71 people, 48 of which were through in-person interviews and 23 of which were through an online survey. When doing the survey, we fully understood that the results may not be quite as reliable as in-person interviews. However, by combining the results from our survey with the results from in-person validation, we were able to form more accurate conclusions. Overall, by contacting 71 people, we believe that we have fairly accurate data related to our customers' pain and our product.
Originally, we actually tried validating an idea for a double-sided suit jacket that heated the wearer when worn and cooled the wearer when worn inside out to solve the problem of suit jackets being too warm in moderate weather and not warm enough in the bitter cold of the winter. From earlier on in our validation of the solution, we realized that it was not being taken as well by our customers as we thought it would.
When we started, we wanted to get a good idea of how big of a pain getting locked out was for people. We tested this by going down the hallways in Helaman Halls, pushing doors to see if they had been taped. If a door was taped, then it meant that the owner of the apartment found it a pain to be locked out and to have to use their key to get into the room every time. According to the test, 23% of doors in Helaman Halls are taped, so we were pretty confident to move on to more confronting forms of validation and find out if our solution was more attractive to residents than the janky tape solution. We could also tell from early on that this was a solution to keep on validating because people would themselves come up to Marshall and ask about the product when they saw him using his personal prototype version. This got us really excited because this same situation happened to the people who came to speak in class. Overall, we learned a number of different things from our customers. First, we learned that the early adopters didn't really care if they could see any wiring on the product or if there were any loose ends. We also got some suggestions from customers that we should make the product wireless and more aesthetically pleasing. We also got suggestions from a number of customers that there should be 2 combinations. That way one roommate, if need be, they change their code, won't lock out their buddy. We also learned that most people were willing to pay a lot of money for the product because a lot of people understand that electronics aren't cheap, and so they value it at a high price. We also got concerns from a number of people for security reasons. Overall, we learned a lot from our customer suggestions, and we took all these suggestions into account when making our different product models and making business decisions.
Since we wouldn't be making an astronomical number of units, most of the materials could come from vendors on eBay. Altogether, this meant that the total price of materials would be about $9.88 per unit. Also, with the estimation that it would take about 20 minutes to build each unit, if a number of them were made at the same time, and that it would take about 10 minutes to install each of them, we could pay ourselves minimum wage and add only $3.63 to the total cost. From our validation, we determined that we could sell each unit for about $25, for a profit of $11.49 per unit. This makes for a profit margin of 46%.
Our unfair advantage is that we live in Helaman Halls and Heritage Halls and are then able to personally communicate with the residents about their pain and able to spread awareness of the product easily by word of mouth. An outsider would not be able to effectively do what we are doing. Our unique value is that we provide a safer option than taping your door, and a more convenient option than having to remember your key at all times, and running the risk of being locked out. Room key is a much better option than any of the existing alternatives. We think that there would be two effective ways to distribute our product. The first way would be to set up a booth in the Cannon Center, where we would be able to display and explain the product to people. And then we would be able to easily install the device on their room's door. In addition, we would gain some signups digitally by obtaining the emails of tenants by distributing QR codes on sticky notes and over airdrop in the Cannon Center. We would put an emphasis on the Cannon Center because it is such a high traffic area, most of which will be part of our target demographic. Aside from these, much of our advertising would come from just using the product and talking about it. Because it is such a pain and fear to get locked out, people will be eager to buy a product to alleviate that pain. Individuals have already expressed interest in buying the product just after seeing the prototype in passing.
When reviewing our validation data, we were able to draw a few conclusions. One of those conclusions was relating to the possible price points of our product. Out of all of our in-person respondents that said that this was a pain that they would be willing to pay for, the average price that they said they would be willing to pay was $33. Prior to our validation, our group had to get together and analyze what segment we would be targeting and what that demographic looked like. Eventually, we decided that we would begin by targeting the segment of individuals living in BYU on-campus housing. This meant that everyone in our target demographic was approximately 18 to 22 years old, male or female, and attending BYU full-time. We chose to target this particular segment for a few reasons. Perhaps the most important reason for targeting this segment was the fact that we could verify that our products would work on all of the doors for on-campus housing. Another reason why we targeted this segment is because of the inherent forgetfulness of college students. We can all agree that college students are generally not the most responsible individuals, and this fact played to our advantage because it is what actually created the pain for our product.
In validating this product, there were a few failures along the way. I locked myself out a fair number of times while trying to build it, and definitely didn't lock my roommate out more than once trying to debug it. In the end, I talked to the Helaman Halls director about it, and we got shut down for legal reasons. Apparently, if someone's room gets broken into, BYU would get sued, not us, and so it's not a liability that they'd be willing to take on by allowing us to start installing these. Also, apparently, it's in our contract that you can't run a business out of your dorm. It's also in your contract that you won't tamper with the locks, and apparently pushing on people's doors actually counts as breaking and entering. It was kind of disappointing. However, he did give me a contact for an entrepreneur who runs haunted houses near here, so that was cool. Maybe I'll use that for an interview. And while our idea wasn't allowed to move forward, I'm still grateful that we were able to go through the process and learn what it means to validate.